So everyone who is close to me knows one thing about me. I don't eat eggs. Not boiled, not fried, not roasted, not scrambled, not even when they are mixed into other foods. For several years, whenever a doctor asked if I had any allergies, I simply wrote eggs. It was easier than explaining the real reason. And sometimes the doctor would ask what happened whenever I ate eggs. I always came up with something that was medically reasonable. I would either say that they made me nauseous or they gave me heartburn. None of that was true, frankly speaking. The truth is, I simply don't like the smell of eggs. I can't stand them. But beyond that, the real reason is cultural. It is deeply rooted in my upbringing when I was younger or as a growing lad. For a long time, I never shared that reason with anyone because I thought people would dismiss it as being strange or outdated. But the older I've become, the more I've realized that many of the things we dismiss as children carry stories that are worth telling. So this is my own story. I come from the Igbo ethnic group in southeast Nigeria, and growing up, it was considered unconventional for a child to eat one whole egg alone, right? So if there was an egg, you were either expected to share it with your sibling, a cousin, or another child. But for a child to finish an entire egg alone was seen as improper. One could call it a cultural taboo. So it wasn't written, it wasn't a written law anyway, but then it was urged in our hearts and every child abided by it or observed it. Again, what even made it more interesting was that we raised chickens at home. So eggs were not exactly a luxury. In fact, a child could, eat an entire chicken without attracting the kind of criticism that came with finishing a single egg alone. And that has always fascinated me. And growing up, I was told that if a child finished a whole egg alone, that child would likely become a thief in the future. You can imagine that. Yes, a thief. Now, whether that was genuinely believed or simply a clever way for our parents or elders to discourage children from eating eggs by themselves or stealing money to buy eggs elsewhere, I don't really know. I guess I should leave that for them to admit. And again, culturally, speaking of eggs in Igbo culture or tradition, eggs carry meaning beyond food. Eggs symbolize life. They are used in various spiritual rituals, including healing ceremonies like the pacification of an Obanje spirit or Obanje children, and as an offering to water deities. Even today, you may be walking on the street and occasionally find eggs, soda, and powder left by the roadside as ritual offerings to the deities. But despite these symbolic meanings, people certainly ate eggs, especially adults. Adults could eat as many eggs as they wanted without anyone questioning them. So that means that the restriction applied only to children. But then now let's look at Things Fall Apart, right? So every June I read Achebe's Things Fall Apart because it was published in June 1958. So last year, while reading the novel, I noticed something that I had overlooked before. I found myself paying closer attention to Ezinma and the relationship she shares with her mother, Ekwefi being Okonkwo's third wife. Again, if you've read Things Fall Apart, you realize that Ezinma was believed to be an Obanje. By Obanje, I mean a spirit child destined to die prematurely and come back to the same mother. Before Ezinma, Ekwefi had lost like 9 children consecutively. So by the time Ezinma was born, Ekwefi has already endured unimaginable grief. But then, unlike others, Ezinma survives well beyond the age at which Obanje children were expected to die, which is always at age 3. So by this time, Ezinma was already 6. So because of that, Ekwefi treasures her deeply. She cannot bear the thought of losing another child. And as a result of that, she denies Ezinma absolutely almost nothing. Again, in the word of the Obanje by Chinua Achebe, Achebe's wife. So Chinua Achebe explained that one of the characteristics associated with an Obanje child is that they make excessive demands and threaten to die if those demands are not met. So then I noticed something very interesting about Ezinma. It will shock you to know that Ezinma loves eggs. So that immediately made me to pause, because if Igbo children were generally discouraged from eating a whole egg alone, why does Achebe repeatedly tell us that Ezinma loves eggs? Well, I'm going to read an excerpt for you. So I have the Anchor Books edition. So I'm going to read page 76. He said, Ezinma was an only child and the center of her mother's world. Very often it was Ezinma who decided what food her mother should prepare. Ekwefi even gave her such delicacies as eggs, which children were rarely allowed to eat because such food tempted them to steal. You see? So our elders or my parents or people, the community where I grew up, the fact that they deprived us of eating egg, or a child consuming one full egg alone, you see, they were not wrong, right? So one day, as Ezima was eating an egg Okonkwo had come in unexpectedly from his hut, he was greatly shocked and swore to beat Ekwefi if she dared to give the child eggs again. But it was impossible to refuse Ezima anything. After her father's rebuke, she developed an even keener appetite for eggs. These Obanje children, I get mad and answerable. And she enjoyed above all the secrets in which she now ate them. Her mother always took her inside their bedroom and shut the door because she wouldn't want Okonkwo to see her giving Ezima eggs again. So I find it really interesting, and I mean the importance egg holds in every society, and how the cultural underpinning and representation, or what it symbolizes in the Igbo community. I don't know if it is readily discernible in other cultures. But then I can imagine that if there is a place such culture in terms of denying a child to eat a whole egg alone, if there is a place such cultures are not practiced, it should be in Ghana, because you know that eggs have a special place in the heart of every Ghanaian, or in the life of every Ghanaian. So most times when I tell them I don't eat eggs, they can't even relate. Or whenever I feel like sharing with you the cultural reason why I don't eat eggs, most of them can relate. And I get it. And if you're an Igbo person watching this video or listening to me, I would want to get your own experience. Did you experience the same thing growing up like I did? So what was your childhood experience toward eating an egg alone? Could you relate to my experience, or if it happened differently for you? I want you to share your experience in the comment section. Yeah. And again, if you love this type of content, I would want you to subscribe to my channel. Basically, what I do is I get literary text, I try to unpack and do some close reading about it, bring out some topic and juxtapose it with what is happening in our contemporary society, right? So that is basically what I do. If that is something that you are interested in, I want you to support by liking, commenting, sharing my channel link to your friends for them to subscribe. But then let me know what you think about this culture. Could you relate to what I just shared with you, even if you're not from Nigeria, even if you are not Igbo, right? So what do you think? Until I see you in my next video.